Hello and welcome to this Python tutorial on variables. In this video we will be exploring what variables are, how they are used in Python, and how to create and manipulate them in your code. So what exactly is a variable? So in Python, a variable is a container for storing data values. Think of it as a box that holds a value that can be changed or updated as needed. It's just a space, an area that we can store data. So let's take a look at how we can create a variable in Python. So first of all, we need to have our editor open. So I personally am going to use VS Code. You can use whichever editor you feel most comfortable with. I do prefer VS Code and I will be using VS Code throughout my videos, but you can use whichever one you prefer. I have zoomed in so you can see. So first of all, let us create a new file. So new file, Python file. Run the developer toggle, developer tools. I'm not sure what that is, we'll leave it for now. File, new file, Python file. Yeah, it's going to cause problems. Let me see if we can fix this. Python reload required. Let's see if that works. You may get these errors as well. File, new file, Python. Yes, we fixed it. Woohoo! Right. So I'm going to save it, save as. You will get these errors as you go through as well. I'm going to call it tests. Actually, no, I'm going to call it variables.py. Now, first thing, we need to start thinking about creating variables. So to create variables, we need to choose a name for it. I am going to call it x, for example. And I'm going to set it to be a specific value. So I'm going to set the value of 5 to it. So x equals 5. So whenever I ask x to be called, it's going to call the value of 5. So let's try. Let's print x. Now, some of you might be thinking this isn't going to work. Some of you might already know that this could work. Let's just check it. So it works. The reason it works and we don't need the quotation marks is because we are calling something that already exists. If I call this, it will literally print the value x to my screen like that. And it's because it's a string. The Python program interpreter will literally print out whatever is inside speech marks. I don't want it to print x out. I want it to print the value of x, which is 5. So we've got it to print out the value of 5 by asking it to print x. What if I change the value to 10? So let's do it again. Let's do x equals 10. And this time I'm going to print x out. Just pause for a second. Think about what you might see on the screen in about 4 seconds. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to run terminal in file. First it prints 5. Then it prints 10. So what we are doing is we are reassigning the value to x. So we first of all said we want the value to be 5, which is absolutely fine, it works. Then we've printed out that value and then we've reassigned a value to x. So we've changed the value. So whenever we refer to variable x in our code, it will print whatever is after it. So like 5 and x. So now in this case, instead of the variable containing the value of 5, it now contains a value of 10. So what would happen if we printed all of that out and I put print, actually let's do it this way. If I put total equals x plus x, if I print total, so here is a variable, so I'll explain the code. Here is a variable called total. I've assigned to it the value of x plus x, and I want to print out total. What would happen? Prints out 20. So what's happened here is it's printed out the value of x is 5. It's printed out the value of x is 10. Now because the last assignment for the x was 10, it actually does 10 plus 10. So in actual reality, x is 10. X is 10, so it's adding both of them together and printing out the total, which would be 20. So there's a lot of things that variables can use and can be done for, and these are really, really important elements of code because you cannot really code complex programs without the use of variables. So let's have a look at something else then. So this is an integer. This data type here is an integer. It's a whole number. What if we wanted to store something different? What if we wanted to store a name, for example? So I am going to just remove these. So I'm going to set a new variable called name equals, and I'm going to set that variable to Sam. Now, there is a reason we have to set things slightly different. So in a string variable where it's a name or a word, or it could be a shopping list, for example, we could have fruit and we could have apple. Anything that's a word, a letter, has to be in speech marks. If I remove my speech marks, it starts to tell me something's wrong. And it starts to tell me that it needs to be something added to it. So if I try to run or print name at this point, which is just what we were doing with the X, I didn't mean to put that, print name like that. If I run it, we get an error. Okay, we get a name error because Sam is not defined. So what we need to do is make sure we put it in speech marks just like that, and then when we run it, it will run Sam for us. Okay, so name contains a string value, which is Sam, but we can also perform operations which you've already seen. So we can do things like, if I put x equals 6, y equals 8, we can do total, or no, we'll do z equals 6 plus 8, print z. So if we do this, we've not printed out x, we have not printed out y, we have just printed out the sum of x and y together. Okay, now we could put a print there, like that, y like that, and if I run Python file, that has printed out x and y together, like here. Now this little comma that you've seen here, this is called a concatenation. Now I'm pretty sure Python uses, not Python, Java uses the plus symbol, and it's not going to work on Python. No, it just adds them together. So in Java it is the comma like that, and it concatenates, so it brings them together. So instead of adding them together, if we just did xy, for example, we would get an error because xy doesn't exist. Even if we put a space between them, we would get an error. So we have to concatenate. We have to say that I want you to print x to the screen, but then I want you to put a space in for me and print y to the screen. So if we just run that there, you can see that it's printed 6 and 8. Now that's fine, but what is 6 and 8? What does that mean to us? So we can do something a little bit smarter here. We can put a quotation marks. We can put x is equal to the value of, like that, and then I can put a comma, and I have a feeling it's not, it should do, and then I can do a comma again, and I can put y is equal to the value of, like that, and then a comma. Now I've got a funny feeling this might cause a problem, but we'll try it. No, thinking Java. So we have combined two data types there. We've combined a string, which is the text inside the speech marks, and we have combined a data or an integer, which is the x, and same with the y. So we just added a little bit of context. We could do the same here. We could put it's not capitals, is it? X and y is, and then do the concatenation. If we print that out again, x is equal to the value of 6, y is equal to the value of 8. The total of x and y is 14. Now we could change that slightly, and we could put a comma. We'll put a comma there like that right at the start, and let's see what happens. So this puts a comma in between the x and y value. Now the reason we can't put it on the outside is because we are concatenating, and we'd get an error saying that there's nothing to concatenate. The reason we can't put it on this side is because the comma would show before the value of x, and we don't want that. We want it to show after the value of x. So that is a little bit about variables and about how we can manipulate them. So let us think about what we could do with variables. So some of the main things that we can play around with in terms of variables is we can create a calculator, for example. We can say users choice, users in choice, we'll do choice, equals, and then we can do int input, which means we will get a value from the user, enter a number, like that. We can then ask for users second number. So these are variables, and we can do the same thing, int input, please enter a second number, like that. Please enter your, we'll just leave it like that. And then we can do total equals users choice plus users second number, like that. And then we just print total. So let's break this code down a little bit. So you have set a variable, you've said that you want it to be of the data type integer, you want to take the input from the user, and you want the user to enter a number. You've done the same thing again, you want the user to enter a second number, you've set the variable, you've set the data type as data, so integer, you've set the value so that it could be, an input would be expected from the user, and you've given them a hint on what to insert, so what to add. Then you've created another variable called total. You've said you want the user's choice to be added to the value of the user's second number, and you want to print total. Let's see what happens. Enter number, so I can now enter a number. I'm going to put 7. Enter second number. I'm going to put 7. The answer's 14. Now again, we can make this a little bit better. We could do something like the answer to your sum is, and then we can concatenate. Let's see what that looks like. 5 and 5. The answer to your sum is 10. Perfect. Can we get this a little bit better? So can we do it so that the actual user's input is displayed to the user? So for example, number 1, or we could do something even better, and we could do users choice, comma, plus, comma, users second number, comma, equals total, and I've already got a comma there. So what we're saying here is print the number that the user enters, print the plus sign, print the second number that the user enters, print the equal sign. I am just going to put a space in between those, and then print total. So let's see what happens. Enter first number, 3. Enter second number, 8. 3 plus 8 equals 11. So those are just some simple things you can do with variables. It's a very brief introduction to variables. We will be using variables quite a lot as we go through the course. However, for now, this is the end of the tutorial on Python variables. We've learned what variables are, we've learned how to create them, and we've learned how to assign values to them and perform operations on them. Variables are an essential part of Python programming and are used in almost every single program you can ever think of and will ever create. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this useful, and happy coding.